Our reading for today is Affirmation of Hope by Dr. Loretta Williams. We, barriers of the dream, affirm that a new vision of hope is emerging. We pledge to work for that community in which justice will be actively present. We affirm that there is struggle yet ahead, yet we know that in the struggle is the hope for the future. We affirm that we are co-creators of the future, not passive pawns. And we stand united in affirmation of our hope and vision of a just and inclusive society. We affirm the unity of all persons. We affirm the relationships, connections, and bonds that allow us to touch upon each other's humanity. We affirm a unity that opens our eyes, ears, and hearts to see the different but common forms of oppression, suffering, and pain. Yet, we are one in the image of the divine, and we celebrate our hopes for human unity. Within ourselves and within our gathered communities, we discover the strength not to hide in indifference. Affirming that hope publicly expressed energizes and enables us to move forward. Together, we pledge action to transcend barriers, be they racial, political, economic, social, or religious. We pledge to make our tomorrows become our todays. Now, it is my honor to introduce today's speaker, Wendy Fields, who's president of Metropolitan Branch Kalamazoo NAACP. Wendy is a lifelong Kalamazoo resident and also a Hospice of Kalamazoo, Southwest Michigan board member. She worked for Kalamazoo County government for 39 years. As a former home visitation advocate for maternal infant health, she worked tirelessly to advocate to reduce infant mortality among Black mothers. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you so much. What an honor and a privilege to be here, everybody. Hope all is well. Hope all are staying safe. A special thank you to Reverend G and Regina for this awesome opportunity. Thank you for the invitation. So as I was telling them this morning, my presentation, as it would be, is gone. So we're going to get through this. It's going to be good. And I hope you enjoy my talk and that we all learn together. So as Regina's already said, I'm the president of Kalamazoo Metropolitan NAACP, awesome organization. It solidifies who I am and my beliefs and thoughts. And so just want to give you a little bit of history about the NAACP and where it got started, because there's some misconceptions there, but it actually got started because a group of white folks came together to say they were tired of the injustices being done against Black folks. And then we had W.E. Du Bois, who had already started an organization a few years ago, but those individuals came together in 1909. Thus started, and actually it was in February, so we're coming up on 112 years old. Those individuals got together and the NAACP was born. They wanted to call it the NAACP, what was it? The Negro NAACP, but Du Bois said no. It needed to be inclusive, and so thus colored became part of the name of the organization. So, and I just think when we think about where we are even today, it still stands that we have to come together as a people, as a group, as a community across all lines, all genders, to make this thing called justice work. And when I think about the NAACP and where it started, and those that went and came before me, um, it's no surprise that I am where I am today. Yet there is a surprise that I'm here today. It was never my desire to be president of the NAACP. I truly am a behind the scene kind of person, and so much so that because of the information and because of what was going on with my predecessor, which I don't shy away from anything. I'm transparent, and what I acquired by way of my predecessor, it was hard work. So again, when I'm thinking about recommitting to social justice, it's being honest, it's being open, it's being held responsible, if you will, even if it's something that you yourself hasn't done. When we take on those leadership roles, it's something that we then become responsible for. And so when I think about even having to rebuild the integrity of our organization, of our branch, because of the actions of my predecessor, it was hard work. It took 2 years for us to rebuild, to be reestablished in this community. It took 2 years for us to be recognized with the same respect that the organization had under the leadership of Dr. Charles Warfield. And so it was a struggle. There were people that did not necessarily want to align with the NAAC because it was thought and it was assumed that we supported my predecessor because he was Black, because he was a pastor. And what people don't know is the work that some of us that tried to get him removed from the organization, the work and things that we did to try to get that done. And what people don't know is that you have to, we have a local election. People can be voted in, but people cannot be voted out. And so there's a process, and only the national board can remove anybody. And unfortunately, they didn't. So what we acquired was an organization that people shied away from, and we're shying away from. And so I think about the topic of today and racial justice and what that looks like. There's racism. We know it. It's alive. It's well in our communities. But we're also dealing with some things within our own organizations that we have had to and must clean up and must be transparent about and must be opened about. And so that just for me lines up with us renewing. Renewing is a daily task. It's what we must wake up and do on a daily task. And we must be very intentional about doing that. I can remember as a parent, my son at 14 being accused by a fireman of being a drug dealer, simply because he was wearing a gold herringbone necklace of mine. I took my son back around there and I demanded an apology. The city also wrote him a letter of apology. I think about my daughter, who as a 12th grader at Lloyd North High School, her teacher called her a liar because she told him she had read Shakespeare in elementary school. I took her back and made him apologize to her. I think about my years in Kalamazoo County government, being instrumental in getting Erased to come to be part of the training for the county. I remember we had to present before the county board and ask for monies to be set aside for the training of any employee that wanted it. And there was a commissioner that said to us, we could not afford, they could not afford to put that kind of money in the grant. And so I said to him, you cannot afford not to. It's not white babies that are dying disproportionately. It's not white people that are being incarcerated disproportionately. And so with that, that was a unanimous decision to put the money into training. And so I just think about those days. And I also have to commend uh, Dr. Roger Vandersky, who was over at the health department, which is where I work. He got to work and started making changes, and the staff and things started going through that. And we had a very outstanding department. But with that, it ended up having a rippling effect so that the sheriff department went, the county courts went. And so that's what it looks like. We may not have all the answers, but we have to start somewhere. If we believe in the work, we have to start some way, and we have to do the work. It's just in our blood. And again, I have to commend just the fact that you are hosting this service and have had so many diverse people coming to talk about some subject matters that are very hard to talk about. Not everybody wants to. With the insurgent that we just seen, as bad as it was also something that needed to be seen, particularly by the majority of US citizens, because it's believed by many that it's the Blacks that started, it's the Blacks that are the angry, violent people. You saw the way that the Black Lives Matter marchers, protesters were treated versus the way they were treated at Lansing Capitol in DC. So it opened the eyes for a lot of folks. And I think this is just an opportune time for us to look at building, getting together, coming together, because it's going to take all of us to make this thing happen. And if we don't come together, we will perish. We will fall apart. And those that are here with so much anger and so much hatred, they win. And that is not who God has called us to be. It is not who we can allow to win. We have generations coming after us, and that's going to make the difference. And I know that it's still alive, and I know that it's relevant. Today, I, at age 10, went to Shorter, Alabama, and the white clerk refused to take money out of my hand. I was 10, I'm 66 now. Just the end of last year, I went to a business, gave the clerk my money. She put the money on the counter, and I asked her to pick it up and put it in my hand. And she refused to do so. And so this young white employee that was standing next to her, young man, teenager, he picked the money up, put it in my hand, and apologized for her. I started to come home to put that on Facebook about my experience, and decided against it because she was a person, but so was he. And I chose to be on the high side of what he had done and acknowledge that. So I went back the next day and spoke with the manager there, and told her that he needed to be commended. So those things, it's still going on. I still have the talk with my 44-year-old Black son. I still fear for him. These things are real and they're relevant today, but so is this work. And we recognize it, but I'm telling you, it's intentional. The work has to be intentional. We have to do it every day. We have to look at it every day. And it's not always something that's so big and huge as a march. Sometimes it's just a one-on-one experience. Sometimes it's just making the correction. When you know better, you do better, you speak out against it, one-on-one or in a crowd. And it's what I do, and it's what I try to do, and it's what I have done as the president of the NAACP. This organization is going to be here for another 100 years or more, but I do know, as a human being, as a Christian, as one that loves everybody but is not perfect, that it is going to take all of us in order for us to move forward, to be the country, to be the world that God intended for us to be. And I know that we can do better because we are here, and anyone that cares and wants to do better will make it happen. And so with that, I would like to end with a couple scriptures. And one, these are a couple of my favorite ones, and it keeps me going. But 1 Peter 3:14, but even if you should suffer for what is right, you are blessed. Do not fear their threats. Do not be frightened. And then James 4:17, if anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is a sin for them. Thank you. Oh, you know what? I just said thank you. But I told you I didn't have all my notes together. So, but what I do want to do, if you don't mind, Regina, is that okay? Okay, so what I do want to do, one of the things that we did here locally, NAACP, with this whole election and some of the things that were coming out about that, there was a demographic of people that we wanted to be very intentional in getting to make sure that they were able to exercise their rights. And so we were able to, in working in partnership with the Sheriff Department, with the city and township and county clerks, we were able to get into these places and do voter registration, absentee ballot application with individuals that were incarcerated. And so we wanted to be very intentional to provide that education because there was a lot of misinformation about the rights of anybody with a felony record. So with that, I will ask that the video be shown and then I will be done. Thank you.
My name is Shamika. I have a felony record and I vote.
Hi, my name is Esteban.
Katie.
Kim.
What's up? My name is Ed Genesis.
Bill. Michael Wilder.
I have a felony record and I vote.
I have a felony record and I vote.
I have a felony and I vote.
I'm a felon and I vote.
I have a felony record and I vote.
I have a felony and I also vote.
Election day is the one day when all of our voices are equal.
Voter suppression silences the people in minority communities.
You can vote if you have a felony on your record.
When you vote in your community, it gives you the power to speak to the people in power of your community.
So make sure you know your rights and vote in every election.
Many people of color have marched, fought, and died so that you could have the right to vote.
You have to vote to put the people you want to in office to represent your neighborhood and to fight for the agenda you want to see pushed.
In the state of Michigan, people with felony records retain their voting rights. So as people begin to vote this election year, it's important to understand what Michigan law says about your ability to cast a vote in our elections. People confined in jail or in prison who are awaiting arraignment or trial are still eligible to vote. A person has their voting rights restored the day they are released from jail or prison after serving their sentence, even if they are on probation or parole. In Michigan, you can vote even if you have a felony on your record. If you're not registered, you can fill out a voter registration application in person at any Secretary of State branch office or at your county, township, city clerk's office, or at a voter registration drive. You can go to Michigan Secretary of State's website to check your voting registration status. This video is brought to you by the Kalamazoo Metropolitan Branch of the NAACP.